Well, here we are again. Hello, everyone. I'm Ryan Herbst, Chief Strategist with UnifiedCommunications.com. And I'd like to welcome you to another special online event with our friends at Jabra and Microsoft. And today we are focused on the evolution of workspace technology and ways that you can boost productivity and engagement in hybrid meetings. I am joined again by an all-star cast. We seem to be doing this a lot. Feel really privileged to have Michael Tressler, Senior Solutions Consultant at Jabra, and our good friend Jimmy Vaughn, Partner Technical Specialist at Microsoft. Michael, Jimmy, great to see you guys again, as always.
Great seeing you too, Ryan. Happy to be here. Jimmy, it's like I see you every day.
It's great to be on such an esteemed panel. So I'm happy to be here. It is 4 o'clock, and when you're as old as I am, it's close to the dinner time, Ryan. So.
It's almost time for the early bird special.
Right?
Yeah. So, anyway, today we are reconvening for what is another highly relevant topic as we continue to learn and seek to improve productivity and engagement in what is now a very, very hybrid world. In fact, productivity and engagement are on the top of the list that organizations are expressing concerns about the hybrid model. And so I think giving some tools around ways that you can do hybrid right and better, is top of mind for everyone. So before we get started, just like to remind everyone that we've reserved some time for Q&A at the end. And so please share your questions via the comments section of the LinkedIn page for this event that you're watching. We have, again, dedicated time to answer those questions toward the end. You'll also want to stick around to the end because we're going to be giving away a great product, a Jabra Panicast 20 personal webcam. Not just your ordinary run-of-the-mill webcam, right, Michael? This has some cool AI features. It's the baby sibling of some of the room products that we're going to talk about. So please stay tuned on till the end, and you can hear how to win this. And with that, we're going to dive in. So first question, and this is, Michael, for you. I think as we think about engagement and productivity, we have to think really about both sides of this kind of hybrid puzzle, home and office, since a weak link on either side, can certainly break the experience. I did get a kick, I don't know, if an article that I read recently where the term Thrybrid came up. It's a home, office, and co-working space, because
like
that's becoming
three.
You're right. It's becoming the norm for some folks as well. I thought we'd start today with personal devices, because this is an area that many organizations are simply not putting enough effort and resources into thinking about a personal device strategy, one that leverages the latest tech, and subsequently they're not seeing the results. They're still kind of dealing with the set of early devices that they probably outfitted their team with in haste in kind of early 2020. So on the personal device front, how does Jabra think about personal audio and video devices? What are some of the key areas that customers should be focused on if they're trying to craft a meaningful personal device strategy that's going to build engagement? It's going to help us be more productive.
Ryan, personal devices have been a thing. I go back to OCS Link Skype days, the old Microsoft stuff, and getting a certified device then was critical. It still is. Even though we're on Teams, better codecs, better technology, better software, modern everything, you still need a good headset. The stuff you get with your phone, with your mobile phone, or you buy, those are great for listening to music. Those are great if you're maybe trying to call your mom and apologize that you haven't called your mom enough. But we're in a business meeting. You're trying to make important decisions, and someone is just hard to hear. You either tune them out or you just lose productivity just trying to hear them. Same with the cameras. We've known forever, and they're starting to get a little better, but laptop cameras are not good. I just way censored myself. They're not good. And so you have blurry images. You try to hold something up. People can't see what it is. So, this is a business. You're a professional. So kind of the devices you have should be there. They should have excellent noise cancellation, be it active or passive. So passive noise cancellation. Look how big these pads are. Even without any intelligent zoom, and even without any intelligent noise canceling. Where's my other headset? Can't find it. So you can just look at the images up there, like the Evolve 80. Just the foam and the technology used isn't just an afterthought. all of that noise cancellation, just passive. So even on a lower end wired headset, you get that. Then as you move up the line, the active noise cancellation kicks in. Almost all of our microphones, we're one of the few, I think, that have boom microphones. So even these cool hip looking modern headsets, look at that, boom, out comes a boom microphone, boom boom, all to make sure that you can be heard. Yes, you can have microphones that are built into the headset, but you know what? A microphone right in front of your mouth is always going to sound better. So, Jabra, we're looking at how can we give all aspects of speakers, microphones, video cameras. Um, we look at all the pieces and parts. It's not just that's unimportant. We want to be the best at active noise canceling. We might be the best at active noise canceling, or we might also be the best at passive noise canceling. We might be the best at putting a microphone in front of your face. Put all of that together, and there's a reason we're industry leading on end user personal devices, and that leads directly to more effective teams meetings and happier employees.
For sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know why it is the case, but somehow people seem to think a little bit differently. When I'm equipping Jimmy at home, I'm somehow thinking about a lower budget than when I'm equipping Jimmy at his desk in the office or in a private office in the past. And this is Jimmy's home is now our office, and he's representing our organization. And if Jimmy is distracted, doesn't look good, doesn't sound good, that's a big problem. And so I don't know. This is one that I think we're going to ride this high horse this year in 23. We're going to certainly talk about rooms. Rooms are important. People seem to, I think, mostly get it that they need to address room, but they don't always get it on this personal device side. And the distraction that at the heart of the challenges around optimizing hybrid, device is a key part of it. Certainly, there's a lot more from a cultural and structure and doing the right work in the right place, and those are conversations that we have as well. But personal device is just a missing link to a lot of the conversations that we're having, and so we're going to, I think, shout this one from the rooftops this year, because if you're looking for an easy way to improve your hybrid experience, this is among the easiest things you can do.
And hey, Jimmy, you tell me if I'm wrong here, but there are more distractions of audio at home than in the office. When I think back when I last worked in an office, there were white noise generators, which just kind of dulled the sound around you, got rid of echoes. I was in a carpeted cubicle. The carpeting is sound dampening. I had wired Ethernet straight to like gigabit out to the internet. At home, I mean, I got every Tuesday morning, the leaf blowers, the gardening crews coming through, and you hear leaf blowers, you hear dogs barking, babies crying. I think it's more important for home than it is for in the office, quite honestly.
Yeah, and I'll take it even a step further, Ryan. You talk about hybrid work and work really over the time that we've had over the past 3 years. It's sort of morphed from a place that you go into a thing that you actually do. And no matter where you are, you've got to have the tools to have an effective meeting, to have an effective conversation with people. And our friends at Jabra really do have this. I think the slide shows it really, really well, where you've got all these different solutions. Okay, we do need tools no matter where we go to. Microsoft has done a whole bunch of studies on that work trend index to see where are people going? How are we getting people back to the office? How are we getting people into conference rooms? But we also know that home office is as important in many situations as that office building is, because this is where we're going. But at the same point, to your point, Michael, having things that come with your laptop, it doesn't always lead to an engaging conversation, or the technology may impede your ability to actually collaborate. Audio, very, very important inside of meetings. We can't have a meeting without audio. Imagine if you couldn't hear me right now, but you could see me. You'd see my hands going nuts like they do, but you wouldn't be able to really understand it because you can't hear me. And the same thing on the video side. You've got to see those nonverbal communications, and you've got to actually experience them. So I think we look at it and we go, all right, no matter where we are, we do need the right tools to make sure that we're collaborating effectively. And they might not be the same tools in both places. You both brought up great things. I mean, I'm not sure why everybody wants to talk about the leaf blower, but it is a great demonstration of how a platform like Teams can actually take and understand that this is a spoken word versus something that's outside of a spoken word, and take that and accentuate it so that it's something that we focus on, so that we're not all distracted by these things that are going on, whether they're at home or at the office. And a whole bunch of things lead into this. But by having a portfolio like Jabra does, you've really got choices inside how you can enable your workforce to actually work, no matter where they are inside of that hybrid work environment.
Yeah, I know this isn't a popular concept, certainly within kind of enterprise mid-market, but one size just doesn't fit all in this hybrid world. And depending on the nature of my role, my preference, my environment, it's great. It's wonderful that teams and at the service level can cancel out the leaf blower, but this leaf blower is still distracting me in the room if I don't have some sort of active noise cancellation from Jabra. These are really important concepts. It's one of the reasons that at Unified Communications we developed our UC Direct device selection tool. Specifically, this was the idea is that we've got to be able to figure out a way to manage some choice here, because the needs of one user who is remote first and rarely in the office, that's a particular set of tools. There's others that may want to bring these devices, and portability becomes a really important piece. If I'm traveling with this device and taking it into a hot desk with me, I want something that's small, that folds flat, that's portable. If I, it just depends on the world, and making this type of investment in personal devices, is an investment in the success of hybrid.
Yeah, and I think Michael, you talked about it. As an audio engineer, I can sort of attest to there's a reason why boom microphones are popular and work really, really well. Audio at its core is very much moving air. And what do these microphones actually do? Well, they measure the air that's being moved, and they pick up those signals. And if you can get something closer to where that air is moving, meaning coming out of my mouth, that seems to be a better way to do things. Now, there are technologies even inside of Jabra's system that gets that microphone a little bit further away from where it is. Beamforming microarrays, a lot of the things that are out there, they are getting better and better over the time. And you pair that with a platform like Teams itself that can actually identify this is somebody speaking. And now you've really got a winning solution on the audio side to really bring forth to your customers, so that you're fully understanding what is being said and you're hearing what is being said as well. Both of those are very important.
And Ryan, I'm glad you have a device selector. I'll end my comment on this, because this graphic here, it's an eye chart. How do you know which one's the right one? Thanks for Unified Communications putting something together to help people find the right device for every different use case.
Oh, thank you. Our pleasure. I think before we pull this slide down, I know Jabra recently introduced a new version of what has become a industry term, the hockey puck. Started with Jabra. It's become a term used for even competitor products. Everybody kind of calls it now the hockey puck, but that started with the speak line. But just thought maybe, Michael, just to share for a moment that there's a new version of that speak line.
There is the industry defining speak line. Here I'm holding up the Speak 275. It's got battery. You can see lights. Here's the cool thing. Here's one of those things that is like so simple. Like why didn't we do this 10 years ago? Why didn't, or really 5 years ago? So it's a USB-A connector. Oh wait, I'm on a MacBook. It's a USB-C connector. So the little dongle right there, it's built in, just connected. Here, I'll just move my hand, make it a little easier. So if you're on a MacBook and it's USB-C only, and then you go home and you're using your home PC, boom, there you go. It's little things like that that make this a really well thought out device. Having used it, I'm not using it right now because I'm holding it up. I'm actually using a Panacast 50 for my audio right now. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, the audio, this is the first one that legitimately sounds like a headphone. And it really does a great job with the echo cancellation. And there's more in the family. There's the 55. Won't go through all the different feature differences, but yeah. So our industry leading, best selling. I don't want to spout out stats because I might forget. We sell a ton of these things, and there's a reason, right? Because if everybody bought it and then after the first 10 minutes, you're like, no, we wouldn't. So to finally update the OG speaker line, there was
a big one.
You don't just update a Porsche with just here. Let's just
Yeah, it's hard to mess with perfection, and so yeah, I think really exciting to get my hands on new version. And I just a quick reminder to audience that you've got some deep subject matter expertise between Jimmy and Michael, and so please don't hesitate to put questions into comments. We'll get to that soon. You mentioned room, Michael, and I guess just transitioning. I thought we'd start with Jimmy here, but rooms are another area where some folks are just doing it wrong. We are hearing daily about frustration. People are tired of I guess that zoomed out view of the room. That certainly is resulting in some inefficiency and a lack of engagement. And so one of the reasons some organizations are thinking about or rethinking hybrid, and they stand to lose a major business advantage and a ton of employees, relates to some of these mistakes that they're making. And so I think part of what we're trying to evangelize is don't make these tectonic shifts and don't give up on hybrid. Start looking at some of the challenges you're having, either from a device perspective and technology, or culture or workplace. There's some reasons here, but this is a superior model to really remote first or office first. Hybrid really is where it's at. And that's the big message here. But I think from a room perspective, what's Microsoft's view on how you can create engaging, productive experience with rooms today?
Yeah, it's an important subject as we talk about going back to the office, and as we talk about things that may be changing here in the near future. And Microsoft really has had the technology inside of what we call customer zero, which is Microsoft ourselves. We've had the technology inside of rooms all the way from the idea that, hey, I'm going to bring a PC or I'm going to bring my own personal device into the room, and I'm going to ask that user to plug some things in and to do some things on their personal device to go and enable that device to now run the meeting itself. But there were challenges with that. Number one, people aren't always as technical. Michael, you just said USB-A versus USB-C, but do you know that's jargon to 90% of the world? They just don't know that these are the sort of things that are there. And we've all gone into conference rooms where the technology is, oh, well, I've got this big bundle of ring adapters so that I can accommodate anything that's in there. And oh, I'm going to ask you to plug it in. And we know that has been a challenge. And we know that because Microsoft themselves had that in a number of conference rooms. So what we looked at when we were meeting and we were doing things were really, how can we make these conference rooms easier to use? Now, the idea of that one-touch join that lives inside of Teams today, that's revolutionary. We might be used to that today, but that's really revolutionary in a conference environment just over the last few years. And making conference room equipment easier to use was really a goal of Microsoft, because if we can enable it to be easier on the personal devices, we should be able to make it easier on the conference room devices. Because conference rooms, Ryan, while it seems so easy, oh, well, I'll just put this in and I'll go in and do it. Conference room equipment is hard, and it's been very, very difficult over the years. One statistic that we've had from the Link and OCS days and the Skype days, meetings started up to 12 to 15 minutes late because people didn't want to show up for that meeting because they were challenged with the equipment. Imagine I'm being asked to run this meeting on my personal device, right? And the CEO is inside of that same meeting. Well, if I know that there's 10 people inside of that meeting, do I really want to be the first one to that meeting who's going to run it off my personal device and be embarrassed if there's a problem with my personal device? No. So we looked at it, and we looked and got feedback from users here at Microsoft and said, we can do this better. And that's where the purpose-built Microsoft Teams rooms come into play. They are purpose-built, and they're put inside of rooms to help ease that transition from my personal device to a shared space. And our friends at Jabra have been enabling this for years to go in and have this type of experience and not worry about it. I hit the button, I now engage the technology that's inside of the room, and I don't have to think about what's actually happening. I just know that I hit that button, and now I'm inside of that meeting, and our partners at Jabra have the camera that may zoom in. You talked about that bowling camera view. We can actually enable people through the technologies that's there to remove some of that ancillary room and focus in on the people that are speaking, because that's really what you want to see. we can actually take the beamforming microarrays that are built into our partners at Jobbers microphones and make sure that they're picking up people at a distance, not thus making it easier to deploy these rooms and not have all this cabling around. We can take that panel that sits on the table itself, enable that one-touch join, making it easier for the users to come into the room. So Microsoft Teams rooms really sort of bridge that gap between your personal device and your shared spaces. And that's really where we're looking at it and sort of saying, okay, we can make that meeting room experience much easier to use.
Great segue, because I think you talked a little bit about what Jabbra's doing. It's great to, I think, this concept that these purpose-built room systems are fundamentally changing the dynamic. They're easy to use. There's some really exciting things just at the core kind of Teams room level and at the service level. Michael, as we talk about kind of specifically what Jabbra kind of adds to this concept, Jabbra's room offerings continue to grow. I thought it would be really exciting for you to take us through the Panicast 50 story, both as a USB audio and video peripheral, where I think we've known it to date, and that'll continue to be an option. It's something that could add to an existing room system. But also, let's talk about this new complete line of both current and maybe some futures around Panicast 50 products.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. So the Panicast 50, or even the Panicast line, right? The Panicast line, I got so many toys here. The Panicast line started with this guy. So just a small personal webcam, essentially, but it has 3 cameras, right? So 1, 2, as I rotate it around, it has 3 cameras. And those 3 cameras stitch together a seamless 180-degree field of view, which, if you look at the bottom image there with that half semicircle with the office space there, everybody who's sitting at that table is in view of the camera, full 180 degrees. All the other cameras, including the one I'm using, which is a Panicast 20 right now, can't show, most likely, those 2 people at the bottom of the image, closest to the camera. Which means if you're designing conference rooms, you probably have to push the table off the wall, push it further back. But that means you now need larger conference rooms. You need more real estate. And right now, a lot of organizations are taking large conference rooms, splitting them in half, and actually making smaller conference rooms. So how can you make sure everybody is visible in a smaller conference room without moving the tables off the wall? Well, get a camera that can show everybody in the room. So you can see here, here's some examples. These are Microsoft signature rooms, and it's small to see, but each one of these in different sizes, especially the top 2, you'll see those tables are pushed against the wall because the Panicast 50 lets you see everybody in the room. My coworker Eric Taylor likes to say, it is impossible to hide from the Panicast 50. You can't just run to the corner. Like, oh my God, I just spilled Coke, and you run on your shirt and you're trying to dry yourself off. You can't run to the corner. You have to leave the whole room. You need like physical walls to prevent you from being seen. So that offers a whole wonderful way to design new conference rooms. And then we started this conversation more or less talking about Jabbra's experience in headsets. The audio speakers, microphones that are built into the Panicast 50. We've got a legacy, 150-year legacy of doing audio, and it's all in there. So the Panicast 50, you can go back a slide. We'll get to the VBS here in a second. The Panicast 50 works standalone, which Jimmy hates, but works great, works even better with Teams rooms. When I do demos to customers, Jimmy, you'll like this. When I show the Panicast 50 and all its stories, it's always connected to Microsoft Teams rooms. I don't connect it to a PC except for today because I'm going to show the difference of what happens between, and this is a 90-degree field of view. So if you just bring me up, I'm going to change the camera to show, I believe the Panicast 20 that I'm using right here, we have a 90-degree field of view. Let me remove the intelligent zoom off of the Panicast 20. So we've got the intelligent zoom, so as I move, the camera moves with it. So you can see the full field of view going on with this camera. So there we go. This is what you can see. So right here, my hands are hidden. You're about to see the full glory of my office when I switch then to the Panicast 50. So there we go. You can now see, here's where my hands were. Like, you didn't see Snoop Dogg before, did you? You didn't see my drink. You didn't see, it's impossible to hide. So we've got this 180-degree field of view that shows everything, shows almost too much. Now we do have some intelligence, because if let's get Snoop here looking a little more towards the camera and less hiding, and I'm going to slide over here. We're going to change it to an intelligent zoom mode so that it's now going to show. Why didn't it show Snoop? Show Snoop. There we go. Oh, here we go. So it'll bring Snoop in, me in, zoom in appropriately, and off we go. So that is the Panicast 50, zooming in on the people who are currently talking. So if you don't want to see the full field of view, you can use the camera and it'll zoom in on the things that are of interest.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. And this idea that the camera has this capability to go as much as 180 degrees, because in the past we were spending a lot of time designing the room around the camera, right? Instead of being able to use the furniture that we wanted or to use all of the kind of space that we had. And so that provides a lot of flexibility. But I think at the same time, and you demonstrated this, there's scenarios where 180 degrees is too much, and not necessarily the single person sitting in the room don't necessarily want to look at it wall to wall. Having that intelligence is super important. And the other thing that's really interesting here that Jabra is doing, is around some of the AI that's going into this product outside of the field of view. This, and you mentioned kind of intelligent zoom, but just talk about, I guess, just how Jabra thinks about AI from a camera perspective, and what this device is able to do today in terms of kind of segmenting folks into making that out of room experience, which everybody kind of desires as they come back to the office, more of a reality, in terms of what it looks like as I peer into a room in the office. How can that look more like my calls with other remote folks?
Brother, is it weird that Snoop Dogg's just like hovering over my shoulder? As the camera has framed, all right, here's one person, here's the other person. Let's frame the two of you and just have Snoop hovering over me. It actually wouldn't be the worst. That would not be the worst day in your life if Snoop is just hanging out with you for a day at work.
That would be among the most interesting days for sure.
It certainly would. What Snoop can't do, though, is the AI intelligence on a camera. So the Panicast 50 and even the Panicast 20, all of the intelligence happens on device, so on silicon. So you never need a driver or a helper app with any of our cameras in order to utilize the features. It's all built in. It's all powered on device, no drivers. Everything's good to go on device. So you can just do full 180 field of view. You can do intelligent zoom, which we have right now. There are two other camera modes that happen. One is the speaker tracking. So whoever is the active speaker, the camera kind of figures out, well, right now Michael's doing the talking, let's zoom in on him. If Snoop were to then drop a little knowledge, the camera would then focus up here on Zoom as he's dropping knowledge. Once he's done educating me on his greatness, and I then say, man, Snoop, you're the best, the camera then moves to me. So also useful in a classroom scenario where you have a teacher. And because it's 180 degrees, don't think you have to put it on the front of the wall. You can put it on the side. So the teacher in the front of the classroom is seen, as is the rest of the classroom. So one camera shows the entire classroom because it's against the side wall instead of the front wall. So then with speaker tracking, it could track the active speaker. And then if a student asks a question, the camera will then go to that student. The excitement, though, and Jimmy, I'm going to throw this to you here in a minute about IntelliFrame and what Microsoft is doing there. When you have an intelligent camera, which this Panicast 50 qualifies, I believe. We haven't seen IntelliFrame yet, but we're working with Microsoft to get it going. It's the ability to see multiple faces and zoom in on them. So if there are 3 or 4 people in a conference room, the problem is, even with an intelligent zoom like this, if Snoop were to wink, say something sly and wink, you may not be able to see that he was winking. But wouldn't it be good if you could, kind of zoom in on Snoop's face over here and then zoom in on my face and zoom in on the other people in the room and see what their facial recognition is like. What are they doing? So that's what that does, is the camera zooms in on each person, well, up to 4 people in the conference room, and zooms in on their face. Then once we get to IntelliFrame and a little bit of facial recognition magic, you'll then be able to see not just did this conference, like especially when you get the transcripts. So you want to read the transcript later and someone says, man, I really don't like him. Well, who said that? Well, the conference room said it. But once IntelliFrame comes in, you'll be able to see with transcripts and everything, you'll be able to see not only did Michael say that in the transcript, but you can actually see me saying it as my own individual square with my name assigned to it, as opposed to just the whole conference room randomness. So long way to say there's a ton of AI in here. More to come. We've got, we've got a roadmap of more features that are coming to the Panicast 50. There's still a lot we're going to do with this. And yeah, Jimmy, I think I tried to throw something to you, and I don't know. I just rambled. What do you got for me, Jimmy? Anything to say, or do you just want to talk Copilot?
No, I love Copilot. I love Copilot. I can go for an hour on Copilot. But I will say this. I think Michael really captured something with the intelligence and the AI that actually lives on the device. And I think what Microsoft is really doing on a platform side is looking at what our OEMs like Jabra are really capable of and saying, okay, how do we make meetings better? And how do we take this technology and actually move it so that it works for everybody that's inside of the meeting? And I think what we've really come up with is Microsoft IntelliFrame, and it's really the next level of meeting experiences that you're going to have inside of Microsoft Teams. As we spoke about, Ryan, a lot of this sort of relies on some camera technology and things that are happening. But as we look here, Michael's got his own box, Jimmy's got his own box, Ryan has his own box. All three of us are highlighted in the same size solution that we have here. Why shouldn't we be able to do this? And when we look at partners like Jabra, what they're doing inside of their camera, identifying Michael and Snoop and different people that are inside of the room, we now can take that to the next level with Microsoft IntelliFrame and bring that to a new level of meeting experience. What do I mean by that? Well, Michael, you explained that the Jabra has the ability to actually see those different people inside of the room. But now it's going to deliver them because it's that single frame. Maybe both Michael and Snoop are going to be inside of that same frame. But what can we do as a platform to sort of extend that capability and bring it to new people and new experiences outside to help that even be a better experience? Well, what if we were able to work with our partners at Jabra and take in multiple streams from that camera device and now give everybody inside of that room their own square? And not only give them their own square, but to Michael, to your point, identify them and put their names so that when people are reviewing meetings afterwards, being able to actually attribute what is spoken to somebody, because it's not only important what's said, it's very important who said it. And that's where advancing the idea of your personal device in a conference room and going with a purpose-built Microsoft Teams room solution really will advance the capabilities of what you're seeing inside of these shared spaces and really bring a new experience inside of the conference room itself. So what you're seeing is Microsoft, who's a partner-driven company, looking at partners like Jabra and saying, okay, we can advance this a little bit further, and looking at partners like Unified Communications and saying, hey, Ryan, we know that you guys have the expertise. Let's make sure that we're enabling our customers in the right sense so that they can take advantage of all of this new technology that's coming from all of our partner ecosystem. And I think that's really where you're going to see the advancements from Microsoft. And again, if we want to get to Copilot and the AI, I'm happy to jump in. But I think that's really what you're seeing is Teams enabling spaces is really going to take advantage of that platform. And that platform is really growing exponentially at times. And we're into new meeting experiences as we speak right now.
Well said. Thank you. So, Michael, I'm going to throw it back to you to talk a little bit about, I guess, this option other. We talked about Panicast 50 as a USB peripheral, but it sounds like Panicast 50 can now be its own standalone Teams room end to end.
Yeah. So the Panicast 50, as it is today on the market, is essentially a USB peripheral, Teams room certified. Plug it in, goes Team. Connect to your Teams rooms on Windows. Works great. But you have to have the Teams rooms Windows compute. Not every customer is ready for Windows in the conference room, or a lot of reasons about why you may or may not want to go. We're not going to talk Windows versus Android, I don't think, are we? I don't think we're going to talk Windows versus Android. But we're just going to focus on cameras. So we announced at ISE, Integrated Systems Europe in Barcelona, the Panicast 50 video bar system, which runs Android. So it's the Panicast 50 with an Android compute module, with some CPU, with some hard drive, a couple extra output ports, because the Panicast 50 as it is today does not have HDMI, so you can't connect it to a screen. You have to go through sort of a third-party device. This one will be able to connect straight to it. And I just got a Panicast 50 in the mail like 5 minutes before we went on. So if you want to, I can hold it up. You can see what the Panicast 50 looks like. If you aren't familiar with a video bar system, if you're not familiar with the Panicast 50, it looks exactly like this, except the Panicast 50 is a little shorter, so about an inch or two on each side. And it's this is also slightly more. There's stickers there. Maybe you shouldn't have to read more around. This is a pre-release version, but this is it. You put this on the wall, add a network cable, an HDMI, and you're good to go. You can now host Teams meetings natively on one device with minimal cabling and get that 180-degree field of view. So again, as the tables are pushed up next to the wall, you get that. Also, you get this is our center of table console. So then, as Jimmy mentioned, you walk up the one-touch join. You will use this to manage the meetings and control it. So Panicast 50 video bar system. It's coming. Our ship date is June 15th. So this summer we will have those available. If you're coming to Enterprise Connect, you can touch one that was on the internet. You saw this on TV. This one will be. I'm not sure which one it is. Okay, I think this one will be in our booth at Enterprise Connect. We've got meeting room area and whatever, but we'll have these up and running so come up if you're going to Enterprise Connect. Say hi. Let's give this Panicast 50 a run through and see what unique things, what our vision is. That's maybe a little different than other video bars in the market, but we're looking. If you thought of Jobber as a headset company, hopefully you're changing your opinion that we're serious about video. If there's a conference room, we want to be in it with video.
It's exciting. Yeah, I think Panicast 50 has had phenomenal success as a peripheral. It still has a very important place in the ecosystem attached to Teams Room on Windows devices. But it's just really exciting that Jabra can do end-to-end Android-based system. We know Android has become a very popular option, and and we can and have done Android and Windows. I think there's a place for all of this, but this appliance concept is super popular, and this is really simple. I think from Michael's perspective, this is put this thing on a credenza or hang it on a wall, plug some cables in, plug a PoE connection in at the table for our touch panel, and off we are to the races. There's not a lot of technical complexity around the physical install of something like this, right?
This is about as easy as it gets, and because it's an all-in-one, right, with the speakers and microphones built in, no additional cabling. You don't have to run multiple USB to whatever device you're connecting to. One cable, and you're good to go. With a video bar system, again, all built in, so minimal cabling. A USB network cable. I think I forgot to mention network cable. USB network cable, HDMI. If you can connect an Xbox, you can connect the video bar system to you can connect it, and you're off to the races.
Great, Jimmy. I think we'll move quickly because we have at least one question in Q&A, and we got a couple that we'll parse through in a moment. But rooms are critical these days, as we've talked about, and managing them, gaining insights to their utilization, understanding if there's an issue before it impacts a meeting. All of this is super, super important. What Microsoft recently introduced this Pro Portal license and concept. Take us through the strategy. How can an organization leverage Pro Portal and the Pro license to manage, have the right tooling, be ready to really scale this concept?
Yeah, I think we made it a really easy conversation. When you're talking about Teams rooms and shared Teams devices, there's really two licenses. It's Basic and it's Pro. And that really comes down to, am I an organization that wants to manage my rooms, Or am I just going to put these out and hope that they update, and I'm not really going to look at them, but I'm just sort of going to leave them on the basic side, and I'm going to allow my users to come in with that single touch join, and okay, they'll join meetings. That's what basic is. It's really a basic license to sort of try it. But we really see the value in pro licenses, and the reason why we see the value in pro licenses is because we're delivering a tremendous amount of value with the pro license itself. You apply a pro license to the device automatically enrolls into what we call, and what you know about the Teams Pro Portal. And inside of that Pro Portal, we're delivering insights, action, and remediations on possible problems that happen. We're delivering planning solutions. So a partner like Unified Communications can actually build out your system. You can do something as simple as, I have a new room, I want to order this, and it can place the order for you. We're giving all sorts of statistics inside of the solution itself. Ryan, you know better than anybody. If you ask a customer, how many times are you using this room? How many rooms do you have? Simple questions. They can't answer those questions. So to understand exactly how you're using those rooms, understand that these rooms are up and used at this amount of time, understanding the return on your investment inside of Teams rooms. That's what that Pro Portal delivers in statistics and reports on a daily basis. Also, in the ability to actually remediate some of the common problems that happen inside of conference rooms. Sometimes, Michael, I know people don't do this, but they might try to troubleshoot themselves inside of the room, unplugging things and then plugging things back in wrong. Well, what if we were able to actually remediate that or alert somebody right away that there was a problem inside of the room that somebody had, take action on it, and not allow the people for the next meeting to show up and then have to call somebody in to say, hey, there's a problem with the room. Well, what if you were ahead of the game? That's what we're really doing with that Pro Portal, and that's where it delivers value with that license. Also, everything that we spoke about, all of the AI that we're doing inside of meetings, everything that you've heard Michael, myself, and Ryan talk about, that's where the Pro license comes into play. So really, you can see it's an easier conversation to have with customers where, what are we going to deploy? Which license are we going to use? Really, you see the value in the Pro license, and it becomes a much easier solution to sort of talk to your customers about and have that conversation. So Pro is really where that value lives and where we want to drive customers to.
Well said. And yeah, I think from this chair, super excited that this new model really has brought this capability and tooling to the masses. Virtually every room, at least in enterprise, mid-market customers, really, I think almost any customer that really studies and wants to have the right experience, they're gonna opt for Pro. That's going to give them a lot of ability, all the capabilities that you've talked about, and the capabilities. It's not that we're never going to have an issue. Issues can happen. Nothing is perfection. Understanding those issues before they impact a meeting, that's certainly the objective, and Pro Portal helps put us in a place to be able to do that. So love the discussion today. I guess in terms of a little quick last one, both for you, Michael, and for Jimmy. We've talked a lot today about things customers can do today. I think that's important. Today we're in this moment of trying to go from good to great, or some customers are going from okay to good with hybrid. We need to help them. But a little kind of looking forward beyond what you can do at this moment. Some of the futures that are going to be coming later this year and into next year, some really exciting stuff. Thought we'd just spend a moment with some forward-looking kind of vision around how we see this getting even better this year and into next. Maybe we start with Michael for a moment, and then Jimmy, then we'll move into Q&A.
Yeah, I can't talk too much because that gets into the land of NDA. But what I can say is that there is so much power in processing on our devices that I have seen a roadmap, and we release things called value packs about every 2 or 3 months, and we're adding a lot of features to each one of them. Like, for example, we just enabled the Wi-Fi chip on this device. Like, there's things on here we're still enabling like a year and a half after we launched it. So we understand where we are in the market. We think we know where the market is headed, and we intend to be there with the best possible solutions as the industry evolves, as Microsoft releases new features, as we become, the only one with 180 degrees. I think we're going to see a near value pack where we're going to add a feature that no one else has done on a camera. So we're committed. We're moving forward. We have a lot of great ideas. There's a lot still coming from Jabra on the video front. And pay attention to Enterprise Connect. If you're on the headset, part of my email today, I just got some pre-release things I can't talk about, but we'll announce those at Enterprise Connect on the audio side as well. So strong dynamic roadmap over here in Jabra land.
Jimmy, talk to us about where Teams is headed.
Copilot.
So I think it's important to understand Enterprise Connect is an important show for Microsoft, and I think you're going to see a lot of new things come out of Enterprise Connect. But I think for customers to understand, they really have to try these Teams room systems, and they really have to take the step into, all right, how am I going to Teams enable my shared spaces as people come back to the office? Ryan, Michael, we all know Teams has been a juggernaut. It's been a huge adoption point. But the amount of people that have actually adopted Teams rooms hasn't been as great as Teams, which is a shortcoming in your device portfolio. Because as we go back to the office, we're going to need to do all these things. We're going to need to have these meetings. We're having more and more meetings. We know that. We're getting more and more fatigued. And what Microsoft is doing with this technology, what Microsoft is doing with the platform itself, is removing some of these stress levels. I can talk about Copilot, and I can even give you a sort of a preview that I know will be coming. There's areas of interest in that front row layout that we have, and those areas of interest are really going to be driven by AI. So let's say I go ahead and I say that I want to see the agenda for the meeting. Why shouldn't I be able to see that on the shared device inside of the room? We're now bringing things like chat. We're bringing things like shared documents. We're bringing all of that into the conference room space through these Teams room systems. You can't do that with these personal devices when I'm just plugging in something and basically relying on my personal device to do it. So I think you're really going to see these advancements and say, how are we going to make meetings easier for people? How are we going to make meetings better for people? And how are we really advancing this? This is no longer about audio and video inside of the room. This is about bringing the platform and that true collaboration that we've all become used to inside of that shared space, and making sure that as I go on my journey, on my day, and I go into the office, I don't have a lesser experience inside of that room than I do inside of my personal space. So I think it's really important to sort of understand, as we're adding features, we've also got to get people to take that first step. And Ryan, even reaching out to you, one of the things that I did on a session earlier today was I had a poll and I said, what's stopping you from adopting this? And one of the top answers was actually cost. Well, maybe it's device as a service model that you can go to unified communication and you don't have to lay out a whole room system, and you can actually do these things on an easier level. Maybe if budget is a concern, we can have those discussions and bring them into the conversation. So I think taking that first step and reaching out and making sure that I have a plan and I have a way to go, I think that's really more important than, hey, look at the new features that are coming in.
No, it's interesting. It's also the case, I think a lot of the customers that we hear from that say, it's cost and budget, don't actually know how little these things cost these days. Because they're still thinking about, what video conferencing kind of, of the past, the $20, $30, $40, $50,000 rooms, you can do a lot sub 5,000. You can do a lot sub 7,000. You can self-install this stuff and save yourself a ton. We install things, but I'm the first to say these days that, in this appliance model, we can help a customer. We have plenty of customers that are installing on their own. We help them through the first one. We help them with the technical readiness and the planning, and we help them in a lot of instances with the management story and the tooling. The physical side is super easy, but yeah, I would say any customer who's feeling like that budget is the challenge, we should have a conversation, because we can do 5 or 10 rooms for what it used to be. It took to do a single room in the past. So let's shift to Q&A. We have one question. I'm going to bring back up this slide for a moment because it relates to the question. Don Carlo asked a couple of things. Said that looking at the Panicast 50, how does it handle in the signature room on the bottom, when you've got this populated with, let's say, 6 to 9 people? What is the camera going to do at that point? He kind of clarifies to say, when 2 people on opposite sides of the table speak, it needs to frame each of them. How does that work? I think this is kind of speaking to the dynamic composition story and the IntelliFrame story, but how is it going to work when you've got multiple folks at that table, and we want to have an engaging experience with each of them?
Yeah, so let me switch really quickly back to the 180-degree field of view, and this might help with a question in that all 3 cameras. So if you remember this small guy, all 3 cameras are on at the same time. So as I walk around, like, I can put my finger and hide this camera, but the other cameras are still there. And I'll move to the middle, put my finger. Now I'm hiding this camera. You see a little distortion as they're switching, and then there's another camera over here. So there are 3 cameras. So as I move around, it's stitching it all together. So what does that mean for like dynamic composition? And I'll just kind of keep moving around to let you see as I move between cameras all the way to the end. All 3 cameras are there, and there's a potential actually advantage as we get into IntelliFrame, in that we have 3 4K cameras, so essentially like 12K, essentially of data. So people sitting on one end of the table, looking into this lens, they get a dedicated 4K view, and then they can be framed. At the same time, somebody looking at this camera way over on the side, they can be framed. And then somebody who's kind of in the middle between the 2 cameras, they can be framed as well. So think of it as one wide, ultra-wide image, and then the software recognizes faces no matter what end of the table you're on. In the front or in the back, it'll recognize the faces, square them up, and then IntelliFrame can do something with it, or on camera on the device itself, we can break you into 4 different. If you don't, IntelliFrame's not there yet, but today we can break you into a quadrant of 4
Yes, I
different.
think that's super important point. There's kind of a today and there's a soon story, right? The today story is, Panicast 50 at this moment, you can turn on a mode that if we have 4 people sitting at that table, it can put all 4 of them into their own box. They're just going to peer the room. It's going to segment a single participant on the remote side of that call, and you're going to see all 4 of them. That's super helpful. And then it goes even further with the story that Jimmy shared with IntelliFrame, where those 4 are going to be broken out to individual participants, and and we'll have names and that side. That kind of takes us to next question, which was for Jimmy. We're in the roadmap to have audio or AI through the camera be able to understand kind of who's actually in that room speaking, so it is going to put me in my own box. It can display my name. It knows who I am for the transcript and for the recording.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand we're here now. Microsoft actually has an opt-in service that you can do on your tenant that will actually bring in, and you will register your voice as a user, and you'll go through some of the testing things. It'll ask you to say some things. But once you identify that, currently we do need specific hardware inside of the room to be able to identify people. But as AI and machine learning is naturally there, that gets better over time, which means we'll be able to take this service and move it to more and more devices that are in the room, thus allowing us to use more and more room systems, even larger room systems, to have that service available to us. So as that learning and as that process becomes more and more used, that becomes better and better. And that's really the idea of AI and machine learning, is it gets better over time as it's trained more and more. So we're here now. We have this service inside of there. And again, Ryan, we're taking it and we're going to make it better and better and better. And that's really where, even the cameras, I think a lot of people think of, the camera's trained on me, but the cameras are becoming a canvas, and it's just a whole bunch of information, and we can pull from that canvas a whole bunch of information that we need, and sort of discard the information that we don't need out of that. So while it's capturing that whole field of view of information that's there, we know that you probably want to focus on just the people that are there, and we can make sure that the software and Jabra can actually make sure that their device is only focusing on those people itself. So I think a lot of that sort of lives now, and I think a lot of people that haven't experienced this, Ryan, like you, myself, and Michael, would really be shocked at how much it's advanced in the past couple of years.
Great point. Before I pull down this slide, I think we didn't mention PanaCast 50 really is kind of Swiss Army knife of devices, that it can pick up the whiteboard in that picture as well, Michael. So it has that capability. We've shown demonstrations of that magic whiteboard or intelligent content capture feature that comes with a Teams room, and so I think just important if attached to the right device, that in addition to 180 field of view, this PanaCast 50 could be capturing that whiteboard as well.
Yeah, and Ryan, thanks for mentioning that. That's so similar to looking for 4 faces. You have to do a little configuration, but you can then do the content camera built in. It's just software. I'm going to jump ahead to Scott Hamilton's question. Is the software on the device? Yes. So on the device, you get everything I showed, the 180-degree field of view. You need no drivers for this camera to do full features. So content camera, right? So if I were to do a whiteboard over here on the wall, which I've got one buried back here, but if we're to do the content camera, it's on there. There's no software to be added. The speakers, microphone, all the voice normalization, beamforming microphones, all built on there. Speaker tracking, dynamic zoom, all on there. Features that we were alluding to coming, it's all going to be on the hardware. So no drivers, no additional software, no CPU borrowed from a host machine to unlock a feature. You take this, put it on a wall, plug it into a Teams rooms, the camera will do everything. All that said, there is a maintenance software, a management software. So if you do want to see utilization, we do people counting. So if you want to see, on the back end using our Express platform, how many people are in these rooms, tying in with Teams rooms for safety alerts that on Teams rooms, I've got my room set to 3. So, and I have 3 cutouts plus me. So when I bring in like Taylor Swift and The Rock, I see a menu pop up on my Teams rooms. Hey, you're beyond capacity. All of that is on device. And then the management software. The management software, to be clear, the agent is also built into the camera, so you don't have to have them in Teams rooms. We generally don't even recommend having the management software even on the Teams rooms device. So the maintenance goes straight out to our cloud. The management software is generally to set the mode of the camera, to set presets, to configure the whiteboard, firmware updates, which can also be pushed down via cloud. So it's all, you do not need to download a single bit of software other than maybe the latest firmware update, and you get all the features on the camera.
Well said. So we are right at time. It's top of the hour. So I want to say a big thank you to Michael and Jimmy for joining me today. For anyone who's watching this either live or on the replay, the team here at unifiedcommunications.com, we live for this. We would love to continue this conversation with you. We're offering a complimentary device strategy session focused specifically on boosting hybrid productivity and engagement in hybrid meetings. This is how you win this Jabra PanaCast 20 device. So the team's going to be posting a link. Hopefully they'll do that now into the comments section. And the first person who registers for a free strategy session with one of our strategists and completes the session gets this PanaCast 20 with its AI capabilities, really cool team certified webcam. Big thanks to Jabra for that. I see that just went into the chat. And with that, I would like to say big thanks to all of you out there for joining us, and we will call this episode a wrap.